right, we're going to get started now. I would like to take this moment to say hello and to welcome everyone. I am Kimberly Jeffries Leonard, and I am thrilled to welcome everyone here tonight and thank our panelists for joining us in tonight's discussion. Thrive and Shine, Tips for a Happy and Healthy New Year, is a conversation focused on the steps we can take to make healthy lifestyle choices for 2025. It is my pleasure to be your moderator for tonight's informative chat. In just a few moments, we will meet our panelists. But first, I would like to thank our fantastic partner, Heart and Soul, for ensuring that we're able to bring this information to you tonight. Tonight's conversation is part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Risk Less, Do More campaign, Pan-Respiratory Virus Public Education campaign. We aim to increase vaccine confidence for flu, COVID-19, and RSV vaccines, especially among people who are at higher risk for serious illnesses, which includes the Black community. Through a nationwide network of trusted messengers like our panelists here tonight, we have delivered reliable information about respiratory viruses and vaccines to Black families and communities across the country. For more information about flu, COVID-19, and RSV vaccines, including where to find pharmacies near you, you can visit vaccines.gov. On this website, if you just enter your zip code, you will immediately see results for locations near you with available vaccines. So please take a moment and visit cdc.gov, Risk Less, Do More, to learn more about flu, COVID-19, and RSV vaccines, and talk to your doctor about which 2024-2025 vaccines are right for you. So now, let's welcome our panelists to the virtual stage. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Virginia Kane. Dr. Kane is the Director and Chief Medical Officer of the Marion County Public Health Department. She is an Associate Professor of Medicine at Indiana University School of Medicine, Infectious Disease Division. She is past President of the American Public Health Association, President of the National Medical Association, Chair of the Infectious Disease Section, and member of the NMA and Indiana COVID-19 Task Force. She was also an integral member of the LINCS COVID Task Force under the 17th National President's Administration, which was me. Next, we have Dr. Eric Griggs, a New Orleans-based community medicine doctor and health educator who has dedicated his professional life to raising health and wellness awareness in communities nationally and internationally. Dr. Griggs is an international health and wellness ambassador for the U.S. Congress, representing Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District, and currently serves as the Vice Chairman of the National 100 Black Men of America's Global Health and Wellness Committee. Welcome, Dr. Griggs.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Chef Huda Moomin, a Food Network champion and standout from ABC's The Taste. She is also a distinguished guest chef at the White House for exclusive events. Chef Huda is on a mission to fuel inspiration beyond the plate by redefining healthy comfort food with a cultural twist through her organization, the Just Savor Group. But Chef Huda isn't just a culinary expert. She's also a devoted ambassador for the American Heart Association, Red Nose Day Comic Relief, and the Salvation Army. Welcome, Chef Huda. Last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Kevin Stonewall, a family medicine resident physician at Northwestern Medicine. As a South Side of Chicago native, Dr. Stonewall is a passionate advocate for health equity, community empowerment, and improving health literacy and access, particularly for underserved communities. Please excuse that. He strives to make healthcare more relatable through innovative education and outreach. His personal mission shines through with his barbershop-based health education initiative, Cuts and Culture, founded to bridge gaps in health awareness. Welcome, Dr. Stonewall, and again, welcome to all of our distinguished panelists. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about current trends in community health, the impact of cultural practices on wellness, barriers to preventive care, and opportunities to build trust in healthcare. Before we begin, I want to make sure that our audience knows that if anytime you have a question for our experts, please feel free to post your questions in the chat and we'll get to it as we can. So we know that health intersects with every aspect of life, from our physical bodies to our mental well-being and our access to care and resources. As we step into 2025, prioritizing health and wellness is more important than ever to ensure that our communities thrive. Let's get started. We'll start with Dr. Stonewall. Dr. Stonewall, as a family medicine physician, what advice can you give to people who are looking to adopt a healthy lifestyle this year?
Absolutely. Thank you again for bringing me on the panel. So I'll say first and foremost, what I would say um, is make goals, right? And I think we all know that, but make realistic goals. So something I hear a lot with a lot of my patients, like, oh, just even like this week, oh, it's the new year, we're going to work out every single day. But what does that mean, right? Let's be specific. And once you're able to like be more specific, and then what's realistic. So if you want to go to the gym every 5 days, well, 5 days throughout the week, well, how long are we going to do it? What particular exercises? And is it, is it realistic based on your life schedule? So I think it's a good thing that you do want to, have a healthy lifestyle. And I think that's amazing. But yeah, start there, create that goal, and let's just make it very specific. Even just like the SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, obtainable, realistic, and the timeliness. And I think by using that framework, it can really make it more obtainable and prevent it from being overwhelming, which often happens with people with their New Year's resolutions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stone. You know, part of when we talk about making goals, which I think is really, really critical for us to get on track with a healthy lifestyle, part of those goals typically involve food and eating. So I'm going to turn to Chef Huda now. You are on a mission to redefine healthy comfort foods. How do you approach creating meals that nourish both the body and the soul?
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone who's watching this. You've already made the first step. You're here getting an education and knowledge so you can have a healthier you. So when I create meals, I don't want people to give up everything. I typically dislike the word diet because a diet for most people means I'm giving up stuff that I really love or I really want to have. And I really think life is about balance. So for me, taking some of our traditional dishes that we all love and we grew up on, making them a little healthier, incorporating veggies where I can, uh, incorporating whole grains, using leaner proteins, things like that. Things that are simple and easy for you to do where you're not feeling like you gave up everything, but you're including more nutrients, more vitamins, and more fresh greens into your daily diet. So give yourself grace during the new year, just like the previous doctor said. Be patient with yourself and make small changes here and there so that way you don't feel like you're giving up everything, but you're just increasing your healthy intake.
Okay. So that's like a step by step approach, not all in one, but making sure that you're able to keep things
Mhm.
like, but making those little changes that allow us to get to the goal that we've set. Okay. That's very important, I think. So, Dr. Griggs, we'll bring you in on this conversation. We've been talking about physical well being, which includes making goals, eating better, and how to do that. But why is it important to prioritize our mental health as much as our physical health?
So, what's interesting is, we wouldn't ignore like a broken arm or even a hangnail, right? So why is it that sometimes we think it's okay to brush off like a heavy heart or like be stressed out or burnt out, stressed out mind? Our mental health is as important and sometimes more important because it affects our physical health than our physical health. It's two sides of the same coin. When your mind isn't right, your body just ain't right. You're not going to exercise if you don't feel like getting out of bed, right? So again, the stress, the anxiety, and the burnout, they don't just mess with mess with your mood, they mess with your whole body. It can weaken your immune system, your blood pressure. You can eat that not so healthy comfort food and affect every system in the body and your waistline. So it can even mess with your sleep. And we know that sleep affects everything, especially particularly getting through the 4 phases. So again, prioritizing mental health, meaning that, we like to say, get your mind right. Getting your mind right first and getting focused is something that we do in other aspects of life. And it's something that we should definitely do when it comes to our health, is prioritizing our mental health?
You know, most people do not really think, as you said, this connection with the mind and the body and how things are so interconnected and what impacts what. You know, you the notion of getting your mind right to get everything else right, I think is really, really something that we need to make sure that we're prioritizing in a way that we don't get it left behind, that it really is up there on the forefront. So when we put all of these things together, creating these goals for physical health, ensuring that we're eating in the most appropriate ways, step by step, and also making sure that we're bringing our full mental health to the table and how we're approaching that mental health. Dr. Kane, we focused on managing these health through these daily habits, getting quality sleep, as Dr. Grigg said, which is so very important. Maintaining our health also requires us to take preventive measures. So when it comes to respiratory viruses like COVID-19, the flu and RSV, which are very common, especially during these peak seasons in the winter, why is it important for people to keep their defenses up against these respiratory illnesses? And then a second question, who's most at risk?
Oh, first of all, it's just so important during the winter season and the respiratory viruses. These are viruses that are contagious and they can be transmitted to different people. And it's so important that you have to have a healthy immune system in order to fight off these viruses. And if your immune system is weakened, it makes you more vulnerable for these viruses to take hold in your body, multiply, and can cause some havoc to the different organs of your body, especially your lungs. We know that babies up to 6 months are the most vulnerable, and the older you get, you know, in our golden years, your immune system seems to wane. The antibodies part of your body wanes as a result. So the things we need to talk about is you know, Dr. Shafhuda, she's not kidding. You have to have a balanced diet. And a lot of this diet, these foods are what can boost your immune system. And there are different foods that can do this, whether it's leafy vegetables, seeds, citrus fruits, my goodness, greens, poultry. So that's critical. Now, people will not believe this. If you don't get at least 7 hours of sleep, what happens without that sleep, it cuts down on the productions of your antibodies. Antibodies are your protective proteins that help fight off infections. And so if you don't get enough sleep, your body's not building up those antibodies in order to fight off infections and also to produce something called natural killer cells. These are special cells that can help fight off the viruses. And so exercise, you want to have your mental awareness related to physical fitness, and you want to maintain a healthy weight. But the other thing is, it's so important that you got to be very careful about your alcohol intake. And if you're a smoker, I need you to stop smoking.
Okay, so now Dr. Kane said a lot of words there. And I think that our takeaway from that is that we have really got to stay focused on those things that are going to keep us healthy. She talked about sleep. She talked about eating. She talked about limiting alcohol intake. And we know that there's been some recent information that has come out from the Surgeon General about alcohol. And she talked about non-smoking. But she also talked about activity and physical activity and maintaining a healthy weight. So Dr. Stonewall, we know that staying active can be very tough, especially now during these colder months, which limit outdoor activities. At the same time, as all of you all have said, a good night's sleep is essential for feeling energized and helping to thrive throughout the day. So tell us how those of us who are juggling these busy routines, which is probably most of us on this webinar, what are some of the creative and practical ways that we can incorporate regular exercise while also improving the quality of sleep?
Absolutely. I mean, you hit it right on the head. I mean, I think that's the situation that a lot of Americans have. We're just like so busy. So like one thing that I like to say is like you don't always have to go to the gym, right? That's really hard, right? A lot of people have busy schedules. You could do like indoor home workouts, right? Things that require you to use your own body weights, like squats, push-ups, or even yoga. And the cool thing about being in 2025 is we have different apps that there's literally an app like for a home workout. There's a yoga app. There's even like a meditation app. Like these are just like little things that you can do in your home. Doing that is better than just doing nothing, right? Let's start there. Another thing I would recommend with people is just incorporating movements into like some of your other daily tasks that you're probably doing anyway, like doing squats while you're brushing your teeth. I know it might sound a little weird, but hey, you got to fit it in where you can. But even just taking calls and walking in place, right? So like a lot of things that you're probably already doing, but like why not do that walk for like 30 minutes if you're on the phone or brushing your teeth, right? A lot of times, let's say for patients that I come across that may be pre-diabetic, I recommend 30 minutes of walking Monday through Friday. The recommendation may say something around 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, but that's a lot to put that that's a lot to tell someone, right? So 30 minutes of walking, right? That sounds like a lot, but think about it. You may be cooking and you could just walk around to your kitchen or walk around the house for 30 minutes while you're doing that, while you're waiting for something to finish baking. But yeah, that's I'll start there, but specifically even with the sleep, like they already touched on it wonderfully. Some other things, sleep is so important, right? But I recommend staying consistent with the pattern, making sure it's like the same time. My body loves pattern, right? Staying off your phone at least an hour before you go into your sleep, because once the thing is like while you are on your phone for let's say like 30 minutes before, it can delay like the first phase of like the sleep cycle, as Dr. Griggs was getting at earlier. And then alcohol can actually affect your sleep pattern as well. It'll decrease the amount of time in your REM, and the REM cycle is so important. So I can give a whole lecture on it, but those are just some a little bit of things that you can do, especially in the winter months.
Can I pipe in just a little bit here?
Absolutely.
I fell down a flight of stairs, so I got a bad knee, tore my meniscus, I should be like a football player or whatever, jazz. And so a lot of times it's difficult for me to walk because basically it's college against college. I don't have the whatever liquid anymore. So I love those rubber bands, where you can sit in your chair and you can stretch. And I do a lot of stretching with the rubber bands, trying to do my exercise while I'm watching TV.
The exercise, but
Yep.
yeah, that's an idea.
So Dr. Kane, if you don't mind, let me dovetail on that. Obviously, this is a hot topic. Dr. Stonewall very eloquently that it's very simple to do. It doesn't require a gym membership. Sometimes it doesn't even require an app. In May of this year, I took 1,000,000 steps and I walked off of my blood pressure medication, all of my medications.
Wow.
I lost an extra
that's
20
amazing.
pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, and all I did was walk. If we would challenge ourselves to figure out what calls do we need to take that sitting down at a computer versus what calls can we take taking a walk. And it's amazing how it turns into mental, mindful meditation. Everything slows down. I started challenging people. People knew that if they called me and wanted a meeting, they would have to walk. Instead of sitting down for coffee, we're going to walk around the coffee shop and you might get one at the end. But again, it's really something as simple as that. And walking is amazing if you're able to do it, Dr. Kane, because no matter how tired you get, you got to walk back to your car, walk home anyway. So might as well keep walking.
These are such pearls that you all are dropping. Dr. Stonewall's like, you can add exercise into anything that you're doing. Stop acting like you can't. And then he's myth busting, basically saying, no, you're not winding down by watching your phone at night. That's not winding you down. That's actually winding you up. And know that drink that you're taking to settle you down is not helping you settle down. And Dr. Kane is saying, listen, you can sit down and do exercises. And Dr. Gray said, you don't need any of this stuff. You can walk. And you got to walk somewhere. So just start it and just do it. And so I think that these are the pearls that we need to be able to really jumpstart and thrive, so we can thrive and shine in 2025. So we've touched on, our good sleep and how we incorporate exercise by doing some multitasking and focusing on things that are not necessarily going to be that hard. But Chef Huda, the start of the new year is a perfect time for fresh beginnings, and many people talked about this food resolution. Tell us what some of the swaps, the delicious swaps that families can make in their favorite comfort foods, which transforms them to a healthier version without sacrificing taste.
Absolutely. So for anyone who's thinking about doing a healthier lifestyle, I usually have 6 tips and things for you to remember whenever you're thinking about making a meal, going grocery shopping, or even going out to eat. So first one is stay hydrated. Make sure you're consuming, and I don't mean by Diet Coke. Make sure you're consuming your water, things with electrolytes. Make sure that you're not having sugary drinks, you're not doing the sodas, you're not doing things like that. The energy drinks, they're not healthy for you. So wherever you can have water, please make sure you're having your water intake and you're staying hydrated. You'd be surprised how many health conditions come from just not being hydrated enough. So that's number one. Number two, incorporate more veggies, whether you're having a pasta dish or a rice dish or something like a roast. Incorporate more veggies where you can. If you're doing a rice dish, try a cauliflower rice or trying just doing veggies or sweet potato or something to that effect instead of the rice. If you're going to do grains, do whole grains. Make sure that you're doing uh switching it out. If you're doing a pasta dish, you can do a whole grain pasta, veggie based pasta, gluten-free pasta. There's so many. The great thing is right now there's so many different alternatives that you can try. What I will say with a lot of the alternatives, especially if you're doing any of the meat alternatives, make sure you're reading your labels no matter what you're eating. When you're in the grocery store, if you can't pronounce and spell those things right off the bat, you probably shouldn't put them in your body. So make sure you're reading your labels, make sure you're educating yourself on what actually is going into the food you're making. Also, if you're going to do proteins, in my household, perfect example, we don't do a lot of chicken, we don't do a lot of beef, even though I love a good burger and a steak. I might do it once a month, or I might go 3 to 6 months and not have any red meat. And we'll do more fishes. We'll do some seafood, but even with seafood, make sure that you're watching your cholesterol and your sodium levels with that as well. That's the number one thing is too. When you have these alternatives and you're going maybe more seafood diet or pescatarian diet, make sure that you're watching your cholesterol and your sodium because seafood is high in that, especially shrimp, which a lot of people think, oh, I'm eating shrimp every day, I'm fine.
Mhm.
Your doctor's going to tell you otherwise. And also portion control. If you're someone who you know that you want to fill your plate, I have family members, no matter what it is, the plate is always full. Whether they want it all, they're going to eat it all. Try to do portion control. If you can meal prep, that's great. Not everyone can do that. But if you can do portion control, maybe when you go out, eat half the meal and then save the other half for lunch. Just small changes you can make there. And if you're a snacker, my husband loves chips. He is a chip monster. Um, so chips aren't the healthiest thing. So in our household, we've changed out the type of chip. We've also brought in different snacks because he loves snacking. So he'll do different nut mixes. He'll do popcorns. He'll do hummus now. His hummus and tomatoes are his favorite little snack now. So if you're a snacker, give yourself different snacks that you can have throughout the day so you don't feel like you're losing out or you have to go for that mega meal every time you sit down. Also, I will say in this day and age, if you do have healthcare, a lot of the healthcare plans offer healthy lifestyle resources. Please look into those. And with your doctor, have a conversation with your doctor because there's not one fix for everyone. Have a conversation with your doctor and see what fits your ideal healthy lifestyle. So really have a conversation because they're there to help, they're there to educate, they're there to be an expert and help you along your healthy path.
Okay, so I got it, Chef Hood. You know, I was taking notes. We got it. So Chef Hood said you got to drink some water. We want to stay hydrated.
Yes.
Told us we got to cut out our Diet Cokes. We heard you. We're going to work towards that and start incorporating and really drinking a lot of water,
Mhm.
using incorporating veggies more in our dishes and whole grains, reading our labels. And for those of us who are trying to live that pescatarian lifestyle, make sure that we're not eating things that are going to increase our sodium intake, which is detrimental within itself. Portion control, which I know that some of us were raised, big portions, eat everything on the plate. So we're working through some of that and making sure that we have the right size. I think that sometimes when we look at what a serving is, we don't really realize what those servings are. Looking at the resources and using the resources that a lot of our health plans allow us to, and making sure that we check with our doctors so that we are able to that we're making the right kind of changes for our bodies and ourselves. Okay, I think we got that. We're going to talk to Dr. Griggs a little bit. We talked about the importance of all of these different things on our mental health. We talked about exercise, we talked about setting goals, we talked about eating right, we talked about the critical need for sleep. But some of us have mental health challenges that go beyond some of the normal things. And we want to know, how do we recognize the early signs of mental health challenges in ourselves, in others, and what steps can we take to address them before they escalate? Especially in these times of stress and anxiety and depression, what kind of healthy coping strategies can help manage these emotions and help us to regain some type of sense of control?
So the first thing that we need to do is we need to acknowledge that we are not superheroes, and we are not we're not a character in a movie that's trying to look good for the audience. Fine and good are four-letter words, which we tell our kids are naughty words. They're naughty words for adults. It's okay not to be fine. We all have days where we feel a little bit heavier, and moments in life where we feel a little heavier. Life's a little heavier than usual. But you know, when you notice things like you find yourself feeling sad or angry, or just you ever wake up and I just feel off. You don't feel right. And it lasts longer than a couple of weeks. First of all, acknowledge that it's normal to go through the gamut of emotions. We're human beings. We do feel sad. We do get angry. We get happy. Sometimes we cry. My grandmother used to say, cry and keep going. But don't cry and keep going without sitting in that moment. We've just been through something horrific in our city, in New Orleans, and it is one of the busiest times of year for us. It's bowl season, college bowl season, sugar bowl season, Mardi Gras season, and it happened. You know, we need a minute to sit with it, to let not just your mind process, your body process it, because as we've been talking, the mind and body are connected. I call it stress soup. We have cortisol and epinephrine that help us in times of stress. And when your body feels that stress soup stewing in your mind, it reacts, and we start to get sad. We don't enjoy the things that we used to do, even though you're trying to power through it. You might find yourself going towards the isms, the copisms, like alcohol or food, the comfort foods more so than usual. If you're having problems concentrating, if you're not able to sleep at night, or even physical symptoms, sometimes you see it in kids a lot. It'll be a physical symptom of a achy stomach, a tummy ache, or a headache. If you start to notice these things in yourself, if you find yourself looking forward to getting a drink for breakfast, a drink for lunch, and a drink for dinner, sounds like a party, but no, there could be something wrong there. That's when you need to check in with yourself and or a loved one and talk to someone. There are a plethora of resources now, which is amazing to say right now. We have the 988 hotline where you can even text if you're having a bad day. It's not just for suicide, it's for times like these. You know, what we're asking for doesn't mean that you're weak. It's okay. You're not weak. You're human, and everybody deserves a human moment. That's what creates the empathy. That creates compassion. That's what allows us to connect. So when you start to feel like this, you notice it in yourself. There's a couple things before you, even while you're reaching out to other people. First of all, give it a name. I'm feeling sad because, and saying it out loud, saying that feeling, I feel sad because of what happened, and name it. What happens is, it takes some of the power away from the event. Our anxiety and fears are always about the unknown. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Oh, I don't know. Well, give it a name. I feel sad because of this, and this is how I'm going to react. And then, of course, talk to someone you trust, right? It could be a friend. It could be a neighbor. It could be that 988 hotline. And you ask them honest questions. Hey, have I seemed a little off to you lately? I'm not sleeping at night, and I have this headache or the whole nine. And then, of course, at that point, take action. Therapy. Talking to someone professionally is a good thing. It's a great thing. It's how you take care of your body. When the check engine light goes on in your body, you get a pain. Well, we need to learn that when the check engine light goes on in our mind, you get other signs like the ones that we just talked about, right? And again, the other thing is showing compassion for others often allows us to work through our own problems. You know, in New Orleans, we always ask you, a stranger asks you in a minute, hey, baby, how you doing? You all right? You okay? And we really mean it. Just being able, opening that door and able to talk is a way to diffuse some of the anxiety when I just see a question, to be able to diffuse some of the anxiety that you might be feeling. I'm going to get real quick the full 988 number for people because someone just asked.
Please do that. Yes. We want you to definitely give that 988 number.
Okay. I'll look for it now.
Yes. So Dr. Griggs will come back to us. So thank you so much for that. I think that for us to really be able to recognize what are some of our triggers, as you said, and to be able to really kind of take that power back by naming the fact that we are going through these emotions and what these emotions are and what the issues are and what we feel when we are going through this roller coaster, which is normal for some of us. And I think that the last piece you said about taking action is something that we all really want to take to heart because there's so many resources out there. Yes, Dr. Grace, you got it?
So yeah, so the 988 number is exactly that. It's 988. You can call 988 or you can even text 988. And it's not just for suicide or something like that. If you just feel you need to talk to someone anonymously, 988. It pops up right here on your phone. Can't see it because the background's covered up. It pops up right on your phone, 988. That's it.
Thank you. That is great. We're going to go back to Dr. Kane because I want to make sure that we are touching on these respiratory viruses. The respiratory viruses, I'll call them the big three: COVID-19, the flu, RSV. They're peak in the winter. Why is it important for people to keep up their defenses against these respiratory viruses? Oh, and I'm sorry, what are some of the resources that can help individuals access these vaccinations? So you talked a little bit about the fact that we have to keep up our defense, that there are things we need to do to make sure that our immune system is boosted, and these vaccines are also something that we want to make sure people do. But what are the resources that we can use that people can actually access the vaccines they need? What are some of the key health screenings and checkups that everyone should prioritize and get on a regular basis to ensure early detection, which ensures better outcomes?
Well, first of all, let me just say that for respiratory viruses, primarily the influenza, the flu, COVID-19, as well as the RSV virus, a lot of times young babies up to 6 months of age are not eligible to get these vaccines. So we need to have some protection for them because they haven't developed the antibodies that they need. So it's so important for mothers to breastfeed your babies in that first 6 months because you're providing maternal antibodies to your babies in order to prevent them from getting respiratory illnesses. And also, they can be triggered to have early asthma or other respiratory conditions later in life if they're not protected in that first 6 months. So really critical breastfeeding your babies during that time. Influenza, COVID-19, even RSV, we see are life-threatening conditions that they can be hospitalized and can result in deaths. And we find, at least with COVID-19, you have 4 to 5 times the death rates if you're not vaccinated versus if you're vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine. And I have people tell me constantly, I'm looking at Dr. Stonewall. So, especially these young Black males, they're physically fit. I'm at the gym, I work out. Why do I need to get a vaccine? They'll tell me quite frequently. And sometimes what I want to say to them is, have you heard of long COVID? That syndrome that can be saddled with you where you can have long-term symptoms, like you can have brain fog is one of the conditions. They can't mentally confusing. They may not even be able to calculate change from buying something that can last for months to years. The other thing is sometimes it's associated with chronic fatigue. Just you may have 1 or 2 or 3 hours where you got good energy, but after that, it's a chore to just even get out of the bed to go to the restroom. And a lot of times some people are saddled with heart palpitations. They're saddled with new signs of joint pains like arthritis when they're young. So I tell you, Long COVID is real. And if you get vaccinated, it will prevent that. But if you love your loved ones, say you got parents, say you got grandparents, or people that you care about, you may be healthy, but you can transmit that virus to someone who has a greater weakened immune system and result in them being hospitalized, maybe even being on a respirator in intensive care unit. So if you don't want to protect yourself, think about your loved ones. So critical to get all of those 3 vaccines. And RSV, that's a newer vaccine. This is a virus condition that primarily just used to attack a lot of children, kindergarten, grade school children, but we're now seeing a greater transmission to adults, to their parents. And so we need them to get that protection as well, all 3. Now, let's talk about what you need to do in general. Please see a healthcare provider once a year and get that complete physical examination that you need. We need to be screening for cancer. So mothers, women, get that mammogram. Men, get that prostate cancer screening. Colon cancer, lung cancer, those are other critical cancers that you need to check out. And we can still get malignant melanoma. That's a skin condition where it looks like a mole and it's changing colors. Get that checked out, your cancer screening. So critical. Now, a lot of people don't realize how much chronic kidney disease we have in this country. How many of our patients are on dialysis unnecessarily because they get a blood test and they think, oh, the doctor's checked me out, so I know my kidneys are okay because he says all my tests are okay. Well, you have to understand, if your doctor's not asking you for a urine test, they're not asking you for a urine test, then they can't pick up kidney failure 3 to 5 years earlier if you just wait for the blood test. So you need to make sure you get that urine test. And then things like diabetes, get your blood pressure checked every 2 years, get cholesterol checked out, glaucoma for your eyes, that can happen, okay? And then as you get older, sometimes that bone formation is not as good as it should be. So there's something called osteoporosis, thinning of the bones, and it can lead you to have fall injuries a lot. So even something called a DEXA scan can help check that out. But someone needs to listen to your heart, listen to your lungs, and make sure from a neurological examination that you may not have early Alzheimer's or other conditions such as that you need to be aware of. So, hey, check it out.
So we're getting a lot of questions from the audience, and I'm going to definitely get to some of those because, and so I'm going to do a next round very quickly so we can make sure we're addressing those. But Dr. Kane, you said you gave us some compelling reasons why we should be getting these vaccines. You talked about long COVID and the fact that we have loved ones who could be at risk, and so that's important. And then we certainly do need to make sure that we're getting physicals once a year, screening for cancer, getting our kidneys checked out. And the right kidney test, not waiting for the blood test, making sure that we're checking our eyes so that we're catching glaucoma, osteoporosis, making sure that we get our heart checked, our lungs checked, and making sure that there are no neurological issues that could be at play. So these are some of the things that we need to make sure that we are doing to make sure that we are as healthy as we can be. So I'm going to ask another series of questions to our panelists, and then we're going to answer some of the questions from the audience because those are very important questions.
Can I say one more thing? Because my brother will kill me if I don't say it on this show. He's a dentist, Professor Meredith at Rutgers Dental School. So make sure you go to your dentist and get a regular checkout because you want to be able to have good teeth by the time you get older so you can continue to eat healthy. But that requires you to dental floss, get your teeth cleaned and checked out if you have any early cavities or problems with your teeth.
Because dental can check some other things, and there are other precursors for other illnesses. So it's also very important that we go to our dentist. So this is going to be kind of a lightning round here so that we can get to these questions. So Dr. Stonewall, when people think of a healthy lifestyle, they often picture restrictive diets, intensive workout regimes. How do people take small, manageable steps towards better health without feeling overwhelmed and deprived?
Yeah. To just make it quick, I like to say focus on crowding in versus cutting out, right? So especially in the beginning. So like with every meal, having like a cup of vegetables or like a cup of fruit. Another thing that I like to recommend is like master the 1% rule. So essentially just getting a little bit better every day, right? That's how you make it manageable and reasonable. And another thing too that can also help is celebrate the small wins. Let's say if you did it, whatever exercise or whatever your health goal was for 1 week, celebrate. And also find things that are fun, right? I think a lot of times we say, oh, go work out, and we think go to the gym or go walk, and that can be kind of boring. Dancing, you burn a lot of calories. That's good for your cardiovascular system. So those are just one of many things, but really, I would say the big takeaway, master the 1% rule, get a little bit better every day.
Excellent, excellent. And for those of you who in our audience who are like, I'm not writing fast enough, this is going to be this is going to be posted. You'll be able to go back and hear all of this again if you need to, and if you want to, which we all should, on heartandsoul.com, so that you can get that. I think I got that right. I'll make sure that I come back to that. Chef Huda, staying consistent with healthy eating is a challenge for many of us.
Yeah.
What are your top tips or strategies to help us stay on track and make nourishing choices as a natural, lasting part of our daily routines?
As I said, starting a healthy lifestyle, it's not a diet, it's not a quick change. It's something you're going to keep doing because you're getting healthier each and every day. So give yourself grace and give yourself room to mess up, but also give yourself room to improve. So every day, you know yourself the best as far as your eating habits. So make smart decisions where you can include those veggies, drink more water, make smart decisions about your snacks and when you're eating out and your portion control, and really just set yourself up for success. If you know you're a snacker, make sure you have healthy alternatives. Just give yourself grace. And remember, you're doing this for you, right? It doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be terrible. You don't have to give up everything. You just have to be balanced.
Okay. All right. So we want to try to balance ourselves and give
Mhm.
ourselves grace and take it step by step and switch those things out. Thank you. Dr. Griggs. Mental health is often seen as something that is taboo or uncomfortable to talk about. You know how we do. How can we create a more open and supportive environment where people feel safe to discuss their struggles and seek the help they need?
So again, it starts with being honest. When someone's asking someone how they are, really mean it. Like, be real. Like, and if they ask you, be honest. If you're struggling, no, it's a little rough today. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you want to extract a whole and take a bunch of their time. Just say, hey, I'm okay today, but I'm going through some things. And when you're on the other side of it, listen up. The worst thing you can do is make someone feel like they're not heard, and that just contributes to the anxiety. So, in being honest, you open up your listening ear. Don't try to fix the problem. Just listen. Remember how when you were a kid, your best friend might get in trouble, and you couldn't do anything but go sit on the porch with them just to make them feel better, or go take a walk. Let them know about resources. Let people know about other resources, and use things that might have worked for you. Something as simple as, hey, you know what? Just take a minute and let's just be quiet for a second. Let's breathe. Let's breathe in, breathe out for a little bit, and then go on with the day. And that's all you can contribute. But it's showing that you're listening and you're trying to help. And then the biggest thing we can do is constantly check on the people that we care about. Hey, how y'all doing? How we doing today? Just random. Think about someone that you hadn't talked to in a long time, a roommate in college or high school, and you just call them, a friend from high school, call them, hey, I'm just checking on you to see how you're doing. Showing compassion and showing empathy tends to brighten, the studies show it. By making other people feel better, it triggers those emotions and those hormones in us. So we just normalize the conversation by being human.
Okay, so we need to just normalize it, talk about it, be honest when we're asked. And Dr. Kane, looking beyond illness prevention, how can we create a proactive health mindset that includes not just medical care, but also lifestyle habits that support long-term wellness and resilience?
I think the thing that we should understand, if anyone has ever been on a plane flight, and they're always telling you that if a plane goes down and you have young children with you, You need to put that oxygen mask on first and then take care of your children, because you can pass out before trying to protect your children. So I think the first thing we need to do is understand how to value ourselves and take care of ourselves first. That's so critical in order for you to be able to take care of somebody else. So value yourself. Take some time for yourself. Do the meditation. You know, we have a lot of stress in our system. We're in an environment that we have racism, we have this discrimination, or I can go into a 7-Eleven gas station, go in the back to buy a bottle of water, and if I have someone up the front, they're up there watching me like a hawk because there's some I'm going to steal something, even though I'm dressed to kill. I look like I got money. I look like I can afford it, but I still will have them come behind the counter, making some excuse to come to the back to see whether I'm going to steal something. So that kind of stress, cortisol levels, that's raised on a constant level is really difficult, and it does a wear and tear on your body. So we have to do those things to kind of counteract that. So, and I say to myself, take some time for yourself. One day a week at least, a couple of hours to do something that you enjoy. Meditate, take a nice bath or shower. Go buy something that you may like. Go to a movie, but do something that relaxing. And then take up a new new kind of something fun to do that you've never done before. Maybe, hey, I'm going to do painting, or I'm going to finally learn how to do that line dancing, but something fun. Or even, hey, Chef Huda, you understand this. I'm trying to learn how to cook me a lemon meringue pie. Now, maybe I shouldn't be telling you that, okay? But I can have a pie once in a while, and I want to be able to bake that pie like my sister-in-law does. It just melts in your mouth, okay?
Dr. Kane, if it's lemon, could you please save me a piece? Please make lemon and save me a piece.
That may be difficult, okay?
I think we all need to just gather down there at Dr. Kane's to just have some of this pie. So this has been very helpful, I think, in terms of how we want to make sure that we are incorporating, maintaining, and then also just talking about the things that are very real for us, for people who look like us, just living, I'll say it, living while Black. And all of these things can really impact our health, our mind, body health in so very many ways. So thank you all for that. So let's get to some of our audience questions. First of all, I do want to say you can go back and listen to this on heartandsoul.com. Dr. Griggs gave you the 988 number, but there's also a website, 988lifeline.org is the website. Now, we have a question from the audience. Would you please address increased cortisol levels and stress, as well as decreased sleep at risk for obesity and other comorbidities? Which one of our doctors want to take that? Increased cortisol levels and stress, as well as decreased sleep as a risk for obesity and other comorbidities.
I will start it off. The cortisol, as I said, is in simplest terms, it's our fight or flight hormone, in that you heard about a deer being stuck in a headlight. Have any of y'all, let's say 5th, 6th grade, been in class and a teacher called your name and you weren't ready and like, what's 2 + 2? And you're like, yeah. Cortisol works to raise your blood sugar, and it heightens things. And chronic cortisol level can lead to all kinds of things. It can lead to insulin resistance, can lead to diabetes. There's epinephrine that tends to go with it in that stress response that can raise your blood response, your blood pressure. And what happens is, if you live with it over time, your body thinks that you're getting used to it. So it's going to give you those chronic diseases that are associated with elevated blood sugar and elevated blood pressure, which are two of the things that we need in order to fight and or fly, correct? That make sense?
Yeah, so 2 things. One, it definitely increases your appetite. So, because it's increasing your appetite, you're going to want to eat more. And the second thing is cortisol causes your body to store more fat, and it's not being allowed to be metabolized off in the normal way from an energy standpoint. So,
which Dr. Kane can contribute to the circumference of your neck, which can interrupt your sleep,
yes.
which can lead to obstructive sleep apnea, which all of these things that we're talking about is a risk for heart disease, and the obesity heightens your risk for different cancers and other diseases.
And even insulin resistance,
Mhm.
it impacts your blood sugar. So it interferes with the insulin being able to regulate your blood sugar. So it puts you at a higher risk of becoming a diabetic. So you need that sleep.
Yeah, and when
Yeah.
the insulin resistance, insulin opens the door in the cells for the sugar to go in and do the work in the cell. Well, if the insulin is resistant, the sugar stays in the bloodstream, and that's when you get all of the damages. And at least, it's funny how the elbow bone connected to the arm bone, connected to the neck bone is true. It's all connected. It's all connected.
I know that there's a lot of research out now looking at decreased sleep and dementia, and increases your risk for dementia. And you talked about sleep apnea, Dr. Griggs. When you have sleep apnea, you stop breathing, and those things can cause some of your memory issues that you're having when you lose that oxygen at night. So I think that sleep is something that we definitely need to make sure. So thank you for that information about the cortisol, stress, and decreased risk of sleep. Dr. Kane, how do you tell the difference between COVID, flu, and RSV?
So it's really difficult to make the distinction between all three of them because they're respiratory viruses, and all of them can cause a fever. They can cause a cough. They may have a sore throat associated with it. And sometimes all of them can even have some GI symptoms associated with it. So you may, especially in children, have nausea or vomiting or diarrhea associated with the symptoms. So just by the symptoms, it can be very difficult to distinguish between the three from a respiratory virus standpoint.
Okay. Should a breast cancer patient be scheduled as soon as possible to have the 3 major vaccines that we've discussed?
So definitely. So it is so critical that you get your vaccines because you have a weakened system. So you need the additional protection of these vaccines developing and producing antibodies in your system to better fight against these infections. Now, someone will say, wow, I just got COVID-19. So I should have natural immunity. I never need to get a vaccine again. So that protection only lasts for 3 months. And so know that the protection is only 3 months. And so you really need that protection. In this COVID-19, we have what we call a mutation. It's a new variant. So you need the newer boosters, vaccines that are out there to protect you related to these respiratory virus conditions. And traveling, you're on a plane and you're traveling, you're in close proximity, and there are a lot of people coughing and sneezing. Please carry your mask with you when you're traveling or you're in a heavily populated area to protect yourself. And never doubt that washing your hands frequently where you touch it is really critical. And if you cough, hey, cover your mouth with your sleeves. And if you're having symptoms, could you please stay home, work from home? Don't spread your good wealth out there with everyone else, but stay home. And if you have a fever, don't come back until your fever is gone for 24 hours in terms of your symptoms.
Thank you. Now, there's a question about a food map diet. One of our viewers is saying that they were told to try this because of bloating. Any thoughts on that, perhaps, Chef Huda, about a food map diet, or any one of our panelists?
So I am going to turn this over to the doctors, but typically my knowledge of a food map diet is usually for people who have IBF or other symptoms or other diagnosis like that.
Mhm.
And it's a restrictive diet. So they'll be cutting out dairy, they'll be cutting out some vegetables, some fruits, uh, beans, legumes. And you have to make sure that while you're on the diet, you have to make sure while you're on the diet that you're getting the proper amount of nutrients. So I would highly recommend, if your doctor hasn't recommended it, that you should definitely talk to your doctor about it before you do it.
Okay.
But please, I would definitely like the doctors to answer.
Doctors, any thoughts on a food map diet?
So
Well, I
I'm not a big
Yeah,
proponent of diets, Dr. Kane. I'll let Dr. Kane chime
I'm
in.
not as much of an expert related to it, but I know, like Chef Huda says, there are some patients that may have some intestinal disorders,
Mhm.
in that they're restricted in terms of what foods that they can eat because of not only the bloating, but sometimes the nausea and whatever. And then
Mhm.
sometimes, because they have some intestinal disorders, there's some bacterial overgrowth in those areas. And so they try to make recommendations related to that. But you really need a gastroenterologist or a nutritionist who has an expertise with these disorders to help tell you which products you may be restricted on. They try to limit certain foods that have a lot of ferment in it that can create some not so nice conditions inside the stomach.
Well, we are almost at our time. I'm so sorry to say this has gone very quickly. And I certainly don't want to keep our members over, our participants over. So there are a few questions that were not answered, but I think that what we have done is really kind of shed light on the importance of really making sure that we are healthy and that we're thriving and shining in 2025. And you've heard different perspectives from our panel of experts here tonight. So I want to thank you all for participating tonight. I want to thank our experts for providing and sharing this critical information for us as it relates to these specific areas around how we get to be our best selves in 2025. I want to thank Heart and Soul again for partnering with us on this event. Please, those of you all who are participating, go back and re-listen. There was so much good information. I know I couldn't take all the notes. So please go back and take a listen at heartandsoul.com. Share it with your friends and your family members so that they too get this information. I want to thank this great audience for asking these questions and for listening to this very important information. I want to make sure that you all have 988 again in your portfolio so that if you need that, you can call that number or you can text that number. And then I want to make sure that you know that if you haven't already gotten your vaccines for the 3 different pan-respiratory viruses that we discussed tonight, please do so. Please go get your vaccines. You still have time. And if you have questions about those, again, go to vaccines.gov so that you can find out resources about the vaccines and where you can go to make your appointment. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure with this panel tonight. It's been a pleasure with all of our audience tonight. And I want to thank everyone again for joining. And we wish you a very happy and healthy week and a very healthy and happy 2025. Risk less, do more. Thank you.